I don't know.
Below
Hey,
Whiteside.
Alan, did you hear him? He
My
says,
bottle
which
of
one's
water."
Pete?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of September 5th, 2017. Well, for purposes of necessity, Mrs. Whiteside will be acting as clerk today. I'll be acting as chairman.
So moved.
Thank you. All in
Second.
favor?
Second. Aye.
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 Okay, next is
I make a,
roll call.
I make a motion that we allow Mr. Titlebaum to attend by remote participation.
No motion requires a decision of the chair.
It is.
Oh,
It
okay.
doesn't require a motion.
All right,
No
go
problem.
ahead. What do you want? A roll call?
Roll call, please.
All selectmen are present in mind and spirit.
Thank you.
That's not true.
4 of us in body. Mr. Titlebaum is attending by remote participation. Also,
Alter ego is on the table.
Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Bowen.
Okay, pledge of allegiance.
Ernie.
Yeah. Ernie, you win. Pledge of allegiance tonight.
United States of America. Indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
I always have to get the last word in.
Doesn't he?
Sorry. All righty.
I have many announcements.
Announcements, Patrick?
No, I was on vacation.
Tony?
All set, thank you.
Judy?
Yes, I have several, thank you. The Head Start classroom needs volunteers to read twice a month, October through May, from 10 to 11 at the Cape Cod Child Development Preschool in Onset. One adult reads aloud to one preschooler for a total of 11 visits. Books will be provided. Just show up and read. Dates are October 4th, 18th, November 1st, and 15th, December 6th, January 3rd and 17th, February 7th, March 7th and 21st, and April 4th. Please contact Mary Ann Murphy at 508-291-3500, extension 3557, or email mmurphy@wareham.k12.ma.us. Studies have shown that children who learn how to read or have familiarity with books and reading material before they get to school do much better in school. So I urge all of us who are retired and have spare time, sign up. A reminder that September is Library Card Sign-Up Month. The residents of Wareham may sign up for a library card at either library, the main library on Marion Road, or at the Spinney Memorial Branch Library on Onset Avenue. Children must be 5 years or older to sign up and must have a parent or guardian register the child. All registrants for library cards must bring a recent piece of mail with their current address in order to receive their new card. To further promote September as Library Card Sign-Up Month, at Cool Cone and the Friends of the Wareham Free Library have established a raffle at both libraries. For each person who registers for a new library card, their name is placed into a raffle to win a $50 family meal gift certificate at Cool Cone, along with a family round of miniature golf. Library card is one of the very free things that you actually get from the town of Wareham. Don't Trash Wareham's Coast Sweep. Each year, Don't Trash Wareham has participated in the state program led by the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management. The state is part of the international program. We are getting ready for 2017. As always, we need volunteers to help us with the cleanup. If you can help at one or more beach, please meet us at the locations mentioned below. Wareham is a great community, and keeping our beaches beautiful benefits all of us. Coast Sweep supplies bags and gloves. All cleanup times are from 10 a.m. to noon. Here are the dates. Little Harbor Beach, September 16th, with the rain date of the 17th. Meet in the parking lot. Onset and Shell Point Beaches, September 23rd, rain date the 24th. Meet at the pier. Swifts and Swifts Neck Beaches, September 30th, rain date October 1st. Meet at the Swifts Neck parking lot. Again, those are 10 to noon, and everything gets counted. Wareham Core Picket Fundraiser. Wareham Core is a group of people who have vowed to rebuild the Lopes Playground. And they have a new website, www.warehamcore.org. One of the fundraisers the group is holding is to buy a picket which will be on one of the side fences to the playground. You can order the picket online and pay with PayPal or a credit card. You can also download a form from the website and pay by check. Or you can go to the main library or the Spinney Branch Library or the Onset Bay Association office to pick up a form. Pickets are $40 a piece and can be engraved with your name, your children, your child, your grandchildren, grandchild, friend, family member, loved one, etc. All engraved pickets make a lasting gift. When the rebuild is finished in fall of 2018, the playground will be surrounded by the picket fence of 500 pickets, each one created out of 42 recycled milk jugs. The color of the plastic wood is cedar and the wording is dark green. Core is also selling boxes of note cards, individual cards, and postcards, as well as 5x7 and 8x10 matted photos of all onset scenes. They are available at Spinney, Onset Bay Cafe, the OBA office, and gallery consignment shop. And then one very serious thing, and it's one of the things that we all know about Wareham is that Wareham steps up to the plate when people are in need. There have been several requests on Facebook and other places. I don't have Facebook, so I don't know, but the best thing that you can do for the victims of Harvey and the about-to-be victims of Irma is sign up and donate cash. What's happening, and it's happened before, is that everybody sends stuff. Well, stuff has to be sorted and distributed. And if you've just lost everything, the thing that the groups that provide help, FEMA, Red Cross, Salvation Army, ASPCA, those things, the local people know exactly what it is that is needed. So sending, a safe donation through a website, a recognized website, is the right way to go. That way, not only are you contributing to the efforts to help another community, but the local economy in wherever will also be aided, because in order to buy 40 gallons of water, they'll go to the nearest BJ's or whatever, okay? So please don't send stuff. We hope that all people who have been impacted by Harvey are aided quickly, and if you're told to evacuate, do it.
Peter, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm already a victim of Irma. I had to reschedule my flight from Saturday because I was going to Miami, which is probably going to be under 3 feet of water then. So you can send me one of you Whiteside. I'll appreciate it because I had to book another night here.
What did
You hear that?
Yeah.
No.
Pull it in
No.
closer.
Say it again.
I was going to say I'm already a victim of Irma. I had to rebook my flight to Sunday. So I'm flying through Miami. So can they hear down the end at all?
That's better now.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Whiteside, you can send me money. Thanks.
He wants money from you.
You just did that on air.
Yes, he did. Something a little different. I'm going to ask Mr. Sullivan if he has any announcements, possibly. Okay. I have just one, which really is not an announcement. The hurricane that's sitting down now, chugging its way to the Keys and stuff, has a possibility of, could end up in this area. It's basically it's a 5 right now, which you really don't ever want to be anywhere near around. They're saying it may end up a 4 when it hits, but either way, it's a good time if you have any limbs, branches, whatever around your house. This is a safety while you got a good week's plus time. Clean up what you can. If you, like myself, have a generator, which you haven't had to use in 3 years or so, good time to start it, make sure the gas is good, etc. Because if we do have an issue, the problem is going to be is you won't have the assets to go find and do things. You can lose power, you may not be able to get gas at the gas station, etc. I'm not saying we're going to have the hurricane here, but it's much better off to be prepared just in case. So I would ask everybody to watch closely and see what's going on. Thank you. Citizens' comments? No, doesn't work that way.
You need to.
Got to get recognized and you come up to the table. Mrs. Slavin?
Sandy Slavin. Don't put a jug of water near Alan.
Yes, dear.
On Wednesday, September 27th at 6 o'clock in room 24, CPC is going to have its annual public meeting. So please, if you have any questions, want to know why we can't spend our money on things and other things and whatever, please come Wednesday the 27th at 6 o'clock in room 24. It's our annual public meeting. 2 point. A couple weeks ago, everybody in the Selectmen and other department heads got a copy of a draft of our 2007-2024 open space plan that Nanette Bergeron has been working on. The first thing I heard out of someone reading it at my kitchen table is, what do you mean we got 57 miles of coastline? I thought we had 54.
We have
Well,
86.
Nanette went out and she went to the Office of Coastal Zone Management and they did an analysis and they came up with, we have a total of 86.38 miles of shoreline. And we should be using that whenever referencing our shoreline mileage. 86.38 shoreline. So, thank you. So, we're doing that. We don't have 54, we don't have 57, we have 86, and we should be promoting that. Thank you.
What is that mean? Oh, 86 miles.
Good evening. I'm Nancy McHale with the Wareham...
Excuse me, could you bring it
Pull it
closer?
Only works when you're really close.
Is the green button on?
The green button is on.
Yeah.
Even closer.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Nancy McHale with the Wareham Land Trust, and I just wanted to make everyone aware of a free, open-to-the-public meeting this Saturday at 10 o'clock. It is being co-sponsored by the Wareham Land Trust and the Wareham Garden Club. It is about ticks and how to prevent tick-borne diseases by a well-known, well-reputable authority in the area. His name is Larry Dappis. So again, it is at the Wareham Free Library on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. It's this Saturday, the 9th. Thank you very much.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Don, you want to come up and say something?
I just wanted to add that September is also,
Excuse me. Bring it closer to you
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
identify yourself for the record, please.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Donald Jepson. I just wanted to add that September is Brain Aneurysm Awareness Month. Okay.
Thank you. Recently had hand surgery. My hands, I was not working well because I dropped the water bottle, but that's what happens when you get old. That's it? Okay, we have no appointments, reappointments, or interviews. We have no license, no permits. We go to number 8, discussion on town meeting warrant articles. And first one up is fiscal year 17 unpaid bills. Derek?
We usually just put that on as a placeholder. I don't have any listed right now, but we've had some.
Gotta
boards
put
of-
it on, though.
Yeah.
I'd ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay.
Motion by Tropiano, second by Scasiotti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Excuse me, poll vote.
You want to poll, or you want me to sit there and just what Patrick says?
No, you have to repeat them all.
Never have.
He's on remote, you must. Am I correct?
No, he can take the votes that are in the room, but he should ask me directly.
I have to ask Peter directly. That's the way we've done it before.
Yeah,
If you
Vote
like,
yes.
Town council?
we can ask council.
Just when you take the votes, just do it by roll call.
Oh, yeah.
okay. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes.
Mrs. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to do that because he's on,
Remote.
he's remote, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, next item up is item 8. I believe we're not going to bring that item forward at all. The town administrator's not ready for that one.
Okay.
It's just listed as a possible. That will come in the spring, I believe. Okay. Kendrick Road easement abandonment, that's going to be on hold. There's still some more information to go on that one. Revision to zoning bylaws, discussion on that.
Hold on 1 second. The Kendrick Road easement abandonment, I'd like to hear from Mr. Sullivan on that, because I thought that was going forward.
We don't have anything on it right now. We know that the easement exists. I believe that they can close without having to do away with that, but that's something we should probably come back to.
Do you want to come back in the spring, or do you want to do a placeholder now?
We don't have it written up as a placeholder. We can put it on there and choose whether, when we close the warrant, whether we'll include it.
Well, why don't we have the chairman pro tem figure out what the board wants to do?
That's when the industrial park, at one point, we had all sorts of easements through there. We purchased it, sold it again through the EDIC and such, and they never did away with some of those easements. However, we're just talking about ones that really don't exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I'll ask
probably not
Patrick,
an
you wanna
issue.
Weigh in on this?
Yeah, these types of things, I mean, it obviously hasn't affected the property to this point. It's probably not going to affect the property, but at some point, we should clean it up.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that now's the time to do that, but,
They brought, when they were doing a title search, one of the companies I was purchasing,
Right.
it came up literally right through the middle of the building. So
Right.
it tells you that it was sort of an ancient easement on there.
Exactly.
They had to go to a different company for title insurance. It wouldn't be issued for the first one. But it looks like that portion's resolved. And, I mean, we can put the placeholder. It's the last night, I think, to put them on. We close the warrant next week, but we can choose to exclude it from the warrant at that portion, if you want to do a
I don't care.
contingency.
Feeling the board, you want to postpone until next week just in case and make the last minute?
yeah, I mean, we can put it on next week even, right? No, no, the last night to put it on is tonight.
Is it?
So why don't we put it on?
Can we close it?
I make a motion, we put it on as a placeholder until we see what happens next week.
The Kendrick Road easement abandonment?
Yes.
Is there a second? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Patrick?
Oh, yes,
Roll
Patrick.
call.
Yep,
Tony?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Peter?
All right.
Yes.
Alan, yes. 500. Okay. Revisions to zoning bylaw, we're back to that. Comments, please?
Yeah, I just think we need to have these things a little more before we vote on them. I didn't get this one till 1 o'clock this afternoon. So that's the only thing. I did get a chance to go through it, and it does look like mostly language changes, small little tweaks. But, you know, I would appreciate it in the future if we get these things a little more before we have to vote on them the same night, you know what I mean? Especially that one, it's long. It's about this long.
If I could just speak to that one, For a second?
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I understand they're gonna do the public hearing before the end of September, which is like a record for the planning board in the last 20 years. So while we may have just gotten the first batch of information, if you will, you know, overnight, the thing's actually gonna go through the public hearing process and be in its final form well before it usually is. So that's sort of the flip side of it all.
Mrs. Whiteside?
The other point I'd like to make is that there was a bylaw subcommittee of, I don't remember how many people, 8 to 10 or 12 people, who actually met with Mr. Buckland and went over the commas, periods, you know, the grammatical stuff, the duplication stuff. So a lot of what you're seeing is what Judy would call grunt work. A lot of it is not, but there were public hearings on that portion of it.
Tony? All set. Let's seek a motion.
Hey,
Put it on the warrant.
yeah, I move we include it in the warrant.
Okay. Second by someone?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Scasiotti.
That's Tropiano.
I didn't move anything.
You said Titlebaum.
I'm definitely tired tonight. Roll call. Mr. Tropiano.
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti.
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum.
Yes.
Thank you. 500. This is fun. Next is revision to solar bylaw. Comments by the board?
Move we include it in the warrant.
Second.
Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is the tax incentive financing for the malt company. Comments?
Well, I think Derek should, a presentation or whatever he's gonna give. You got something on this, Derek?
Yeah, we've put, right now, we're in the beginning contacts with the owners of the company, their investment, they're purchasing that property for about, I think it's about 1.5 million, plus putting another $1 million into it in just the personal property, if you will, the manufacturing equipment. So we're looking at negotiating a TIF agreement with them. Probably most likely 5 years at the maximum instead of the 20 years. But this is a company that's going to bring about 14 full-time employees into the community. So it's, I would ask that we put it on the warrant, and we will have a full presentation on it, because I know this will be a hot button item.
Okay. Move we include it in the
Wait,
warrant.
I have a
Oh,
question.
go ahead.
You said,
Mrs. Scasiotti?
5 years?
5 years, yeah.
And is it renewable?
No, there's usually, it's, the minimum is 5, the maximum is 20.
Okay.
So we're looking for the minimum
The
on it right
minimum,
now.
okay.
And these also open them up to some of the state incentives as well, so.
Okay.
I believe that we have to do that in order for them to leverage that with the state to get most of their money that way.
Yep. Move that we include it in the warrant. It's not the TIF with us that's the big deal, you know, it's the state
The state.
funds that
State
make,
is where the most money
make all the difference.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Scasiotti. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Whiteside? Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is the solar pilots from
Yeah.
the assessor's office.
Yeah, we had a presentation a while ago about this, so I move we include it in the warrant.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Scasiotti. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mr. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is the authorization for the Board of Selectmen to sell 505 Main Street. Mr. Sullivan?
We've received interest in the sale of what would be known as the old town hall. I think it's worth putting on there, and we can put it out to bid, see what we have. I'm sure there'll be some concern about the property. WCTV is currently in there, and that's also, it's in the historic district, I believe. So there's there's already, and they've used CPC funds on there as well, so there's restrictions on there, so it wouldn't be bulldozed or anything like that.
Well, we'd probably put a reverter clause in it anyway, right?
I would imagine that would be something we'd be interested in.
And they'd have to be responsible, obviously, to all the historical issues that surround the property, because it's clearly a historic property.
Yeah.
It's in the district, so they have to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's pretty historical. It's the old town hall, for crying out loud, you know?
Yeah, it's a neat piece of property, so.
Mr. Scasiotti, any questions?
No.
Mrs. Whiteside? Mr. Titlebaum, any questions?
No, it makes sense to do this. It takes a property off of our rolls. It's one less thing for us to be responsible for. And in this way, it's already protected historically, just by virtue of the fact that it's in the historic district. So I think it's a pretty easy decision here.
Thank you. That said,
Move we include it in the warrant.
motion by
Second.
Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Scasiotti. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mr. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Whiteside? Mrs. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Thank you. CPC bylaw amendment,
Yeah,
Derek.
they just want to reduce the quorum, right? So they can get a quorum together, so
Yes.
they're going from 9 to 7.
Yes.
Yeah, so we did approve that last town meeting, and upon the review, we changed in one part of the bylaws, the numbers down to 7. However, in the introduction, what it said you'll hereby, yada, 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 it was still at 9, so they've recommended we change it from 9 to 7. And I'm sure the community preservation now is breathing a sigh of relief when they heard bylaw change for a second.
I move we include it. I don't know if anybody else has any questions.
Mr. Scasiotti, any questions?
all set.
Mrs. Whiteside? Mr. Titlebaum, any questions?
No.
Okay. You had a motion and a second?
I gave the motion, he seconded, so
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Scasiotti. Mr. Tropiano?
yes.
Mr. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is the cemetery thing. This is you, Judy. What's this all about?
As the liaison to the cemetery commissioners, I can tell you that they have worked very hard in the past 3 months. You weren't here last week, but I explained that an RFP was written and a consultant was hired as the result of that. The consultant has worked for 30 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, helping them bring the rules and regulations up to current law. There are several iterations of the cemetery rules and regulations floating around, depends on what book you look at. So the 3 articles in front of you, the first one is to revoke the any and all existing regulations, rules and regulations. The next one, if you turn the page over, would be to accept the cemetery rules and regulations, and I believe there's a hearing scheduled for either September 23rd or the 26th, whatever that Thursday is, and the consultant will be there. There's already a draft that has been forwarded to Mr. Bowen, to Mr. Sullivan, and basically approved by the cemetery commissioners. And then the third article is the transfer of cemetery funds from 2 accounts which are sitting there and are not available because the purpose for them,
Is expired.
or didn't come to be. So those 2 funds would be shut out and put into an account called Maintenance and Improvement Labor Funds under the direction of the Municipal Maintenance Department, which runs the cemeteries.
Okay, so the only one we need to put on, though, is the cemetery rules, because that's the only one the others are already on, right?
That's correct, sir.
So I move we put it on, we include it, cemetery rules and regulations.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Scasiotti. Any other questions? None heard? Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mr. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Thank you. Next one up I have is the amend 40B to include mobile homes. I think that's one that we just...
Put it on a
constantly do.
bunch of times,
We're
one
gonna
more
keep
time.
doing it one more time.
One more time.
Need a
We'll drive
second?
them crazy. I say we include it in the warrant.
Tony, second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Scasiotti. Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
Mr. Scasiotti,
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside,
Heck, yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum,
Yes, now I'm deaf.
All right, so the next one up is the CPC bylaw amendment, which we just did.
Did that.
So it's
what we
duplicated.
do have here is, I think there's 4 or 5 CPCs in the paperwork after.
Right, but that's not what that says.
That's not it, though.
No.
I know it's not on the
This is
front.
the same thing we just did,
Yeah.
from the 9 to the 7, to
So we're
straighten
gonna
out
cross
the
this
paragraph.
I already did cross off.
Okay,
I assume we're gonna do the rest of these here afterwards.
right, and then you have this one.
Next up, we have the town clerk as an appointed position.
Move we include it in the warrant.
Hold on, do we have an article for that written?
Yes, it's in front of me, sir. Would you like me to read it into the
It did
record?
not come through in the, what was copy that I see?
That's correct.
What's it?
To see if the town will vote to make the position of the town clerk an appointed position rather than an elected position, or to take any other action relative thereto. This is,
That's the whole substance of the article?
Yes.
yes.
Good.
I stood up a few minutes ago, was very rude, and ran it by town moderator to make sure that she had no issues with the wording.
Any other questions, Mr. Titlebaum?
None.
Any questions from the board? We'll need a motion. I think Patrick did already.
Move we include it in the warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Titlebaum, excuse me, by Mr. Tropiano. We'll get there one of these days. Mr. Scasiotti.
Second. Yes.
Yes.
Tropiano.
Yes.
Mr. Scasiotti. Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum.
Yes.
I apologize if we're not very smooth tonight. Doing this way makes it a little more difficult than normal.
All right, the next one,
Better than I thought.
I move we include the harbor service permit receipts reserved for appropriation account.
Need a second?
Included in the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Scasiotti. Mr. Tropiano.
Yes.
Mr. Scasiotti.
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, on CPC articles, renew unused funds from a completed project.
We already did those two.
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
did.
did. Never mind. Next up, I have dredging article from Marine Resources.
No. You have these.
Oh.
Well, on the, okay.
Let's just finish the sheet here. I'm going to ask town council, looking again at the way it was presented, I don't believe that's an article per se.
Mr. Chairman, the issue with what was presented is that it's an explanation of what an article might be, but it doesn't actually contain any article language.
So basically, what I'm asking is this something that we can do, or we can't do at this time?
There isn't any article in front of you.
There's nothing to include.
I would make a sidebar comment that this particular article, the way I read it last week at the MRC meeting, is that this is something that really should go to Mr. Buckland, who
Dredging
is the Director of Planning and Economic Development. This is something that should be on their plate for the master plan, you know, for long-term, et cetera. I'm going to explain simply that the way things are right now in Massachusetts, everybody understands, dredging is a serious issue for all cities and towns along the coast. Places haven't been dredged as far back as 1950s. The problem is that the state of Massachusetts has a $1 million budget, which they announced they were going to increase by 4 times to a whopping $4 million. $4 million will probably not cover anybody's project in any city or town. That's one issue itself. There's just no funding per se. We've tried, I believe, 3 times or so to actually apply for the Army Corps of Engineers. Wareham, as of today, is not what they call a priority issue. As little as maybe 7 years ago, We had 3 or 4 commercial fishermen fishing out of the Tempest Knob boat ramp area. We still get some commercial activity early in the season with mackerel and scup, with a truck coming down, but there's no issue getting in and out at all. One of the biggest issues, of course, right now is the Port of New Bedford, which is the major fishing center for the country. And right now, on the main pier, they can't get the boats all the way up to the pier right now. They also can't get the boats up on the other side of the bridge, where they do a lot of fruit processing. Comes from overseas, comes back and forth, and those boats can't get in all the way. They're having a hard time there. So any priority right now, unfortunately, is going to be New Bedford, then Fall River, and then Gloucester, and of course, the big one is Boston with the same issues. So the chances of getting funding through the Army Corps of Engineers is very difficult because it's done on a priority list by a whole bunch of different pieces you have to qualify for. They have different things they tick off. And unfortunately, right now, the Army Corps considers the Wareham Channel as being insignificant in their issues. So unfortunately, we're at the bottom of the queue on that piece there. So I think this is something we need to work at. Mr. Buckminster, I had a discussion with, I think, yesterday. He has 2 interns in place right now, a 3rd one coming. He will be able to work on this and get this finished and get the application in, but it's going to require a lot more work to get this actually to a point where they'll actually consider us. So that was my suggestion for at least the work that the MRC has done, not to just let it be ignored or just not process through on it, but it really is not an article that we can process. Okay, the next.
Comment.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, one of the things that also needs to be considered in addition to the master plan, we heard the town administrator a few weeks talk about coming up with a beach management plan, and to the extent that any dredging takes place is going to impact beaches, and to the extent that we want to replace sand on the beaches and dredge at the same time, we've got those issues to work out as well. So I think really, in addition to the master plan, if there's going to be a beach management plan, then perhaps those considerations should be taken into account there as well. So there's a role for the Marine Resources Commission in the preparation of that document as well.
Yep. Actually, I think it fits into 2 or 3 other areas as well.
Yeah.
Next up, I have office supplies. That was a request from Marine Resources. That one also, I believe, Mr. Bowen was a little off. Sorry.
It's not an article.
Mr. Chairman, the problem with all of them is that there isn't an article in what was submitted. It's all an explanation as to why, for example, dredging might be desirable or supplies might be desirable, but there's nothing you could put on the warrant.
Thank you. On this one here, what I would recommend to the Marine Resources Commission is they go to the harbor master who has funds available for doing maps, for doing things itself. You know, as far as that goes, the Marine Resources basically does not have to publish any documents, whatever. It can be done through the harbor master's office, which they've done before. They also could work possibly with the Beach and Tourism Committee, because these things kind of fit together as well. So that would be my recommendation. They could also check with the town administrator to see if he has any funding available for that as well. Don, if you want to come up, you can speak on it, but it just doesn't qualify. If you want, you come up and say something.
Speaking
Would you identify yourself?
to what Mr. Bowens mentioned, I spoke with Janet Wilson today. She sent me an email that basically said, and sent me the format that I need to put the article in, and I said I'd be doing that within a couple of days. And then that way we'd be in compliance with what his objection is, and I totally understand and agree with what he's saying.
Unfortunately, we're not going to have the time to handle it.
I thought that it was open until first it said the 7th, and then she said the 12th today.
That's on the final piece of it. We're not going to go over it again. That's all I'm getting. As of right now, you don't have an article written. That is an article.
Okay.
If you want, whatever you want to do is fine on your end, but as of right now, we don't have anything we can work with.
Okay, but I see the planning board was given an extension
No,
until the 12th?
no,
That's what I read.
no. The planning board has hearings. When they do their hearings, they're allowed to modify their article. The article is in already, but they're allowed to modify it in case they come with a hearing and they have to change something.
Yeah, but what you're saying is that I cannot modify,
You haven't submitted anything yet.
excuse me?
You haven't submitted anything that we can consider yet.
I
The
know,
planning board has submitted an article, which we have. It's fine.
I
If,
see.
after a public hearing, they may have to change something on it.
Well, if I could just go on the record that the concern that I have is this will cost the town between $4 and $5 million, and I would hope that you would make an exception on this. And I can't guarantee that's going to happen, but if it doesn't happen, as has happened in the past, where basically it was an effort that was done by the town administrators previously and the selectmen, and no dredging was ever done, and now we're back again a third time we're trying to do this. And so what we are trying to do is advise the selectmen that this is a very important issue, and if there's some way you could see to make an exception, it would be much appreciated.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Last one I got on this list here is year-round wines and malts pouring license, again, for Stone Path Malts.
Yeah, that's the one that we had promised to do.
Yes.
So I move we include it in the warrant.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Ms. Scasiotti. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes.
Do you
I'm sorry,
any
yeah.
discussion? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Nice picture of the wall up there. 500. Okay, next on to the regular stuff that we have here. CPC, Article number 3,
Which is the Wareham Wesley
Church.
Church.
Mr. Tropiano was not here for the presentation last week.
I was
Patrick,
not.
do you have any questions?
Well, we should,
We'll wait
which ones
In
do
case
we?
there's a question, we'll
Have
call
you
you up,
put
Mrs.
anything
Slavin.
on?
Yes, we put on the unused funds from a completed project and unused funds from a project never implemented.
Correct.
Okay, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the
So this is the Wesley Church,
Wesley Church.
which is,
You can ask her to come down anyway.
You all ready?
Yeah,
Come on down, dear.
please.
which is number 3 in your packet, sir.
So,
Just for 1 second, this is the same article as we saw in the spring, right?
Absolutely the
Yes.
same.
and which article is this one?
It's
Decision
3.
from the SJC through you to Attorney Bowen, is
CPC
that
3?
correct?
CPC 3.
Okay,
You want to repeat that? We couldn't hear you.
Did we get a
All right, I
ruling
got it
from the
right here.
No, no,
SJC?
Through you to Attorney Bowen, we still don't have the
I have an-
SJC's ruling on the Acton case, is that correct?
I have an update. I
Attorney
rec-
Bowen.
Hold on, everybody, please. Too many people.
I don't have an update.
Okay. Rich does not have one yet. Mrs. Slavin, do you have something?
The Community Preservation Coalition sent an email out last week that the hearing for the Acton CPA lawsuit will be heard at the Supreme Justice Court on September 7th, and they do not expect a result until the end of this calendar year.
I think at that point there, it makes no sense to put it on them.
Then I would,
makes sense to
same
wait.
thing that we ran into in the spring when we said we didn't want to put it on.
We could put it
until we
on in
had a
April,
decision.
right?
We'll put it on the spring.
Why
I
not?
don't see any reason to put it on now.
It's not that anybody doesn't want to do it.
Thank you, Peter.
And it's not,
Okay.
I don't think that it's not that anybody wants to do it, it's just that we've done some of this in the past, but we just don't want to run into any problems.
Well, we really can't do it because the bottom line is we can't vote on it at town meeting
Yeah, we're
and say
kind
yes
of,
when they're going to say
we're kind of
no.
messed up until this thing gets through.
Yeah, I would just put this on our list for comeback in April of next year.
I'm just gonna put April, write April on it, we'll put it on in April.
Next, CPC 4.
Do you need to take a vote on that?
I don't think we need to take a vote on it if you want, because
My
it's legally, we
point-
can't do it.
No, I understand that, but point of order,
I'll take a motion not to put it on, Mr. Tropiano.
Okay, I move that we don't include it in the warrant.
Ms. Scasiotti, second.
Second.
Any other discussion? None? Mr.
Yes.
Tropiano.
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti. Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes.
Mrs. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum.
Just to clarify, this is a vote to not put the renovation of the Methodist Church on.
Correct.
right?
that's correct.
That's correct at this time.
Okay, I vote yes to not put it on.
Thank you. Next is CPC 4. This is the Town Hall Auditorium rubber
Move we
roof.
include this in the warrant.
Mrs. Scasiotti.
Second.
Any questions? None heard. Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti,
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum.
Yes.
Thank you all. 500. Should record all this, make it easier.
I am.
You got something there? Oh, good. Next article is CPC 5, Headwaters Replacement Housing. Mr.
I
Tropiano,
have one issue with this one.
you want to go first, or you want to wait for?
Yeah, let
Patrick?
Peter go.
All right. Nice picture of the ceiling, Peter. Nice fan.
The question I have is...
Can you push that a little closer, though, so that people can hear him? Because
It's very...
Go ahead.
maybe raise the mic up a little bit.
The language itself, it says further to authorize the Board of Selectmen and/or the Affordable Housing Trust to acquire a deed restriction. I thought this body, had in the past not been happy about having multiple restriction holders, that all restrictions should be held in the name of the Board of Selectmen, so I have a problem with that language.
Okay.
May I ask, Mr. Bowen?
Go ahead.
It's not a matter of whether it's legal, it's a matter of whether it's policy. I
No,
think it's terrible
whether
policy.
it's cleaner, Mr. Bowen.
Well, but we could include it and just strike that out.
Okay.
Easy enough. I mean,
I guess, yeah.
Mr. Tropiano?
okay, I move that we include it with the exclusion of taking the dual holding out and taking it in the Board of Selectmen and not the Affordable Housing Trust.
Mrs. Scasiotti?
Second.
Before we vote, have a question? Is there any issue as far as the CPC is concerned with that change?
Just that the Affordable Housing Trust has already insisted on a affordable housing deed restriction on it. So I'm concerned as to who would take that requirement, who would hold it.
You'll be able to arrange that before town meeting?
Can I speak to that?
Go ahead, Pat.
The Affordable Housing Trust, through its own financing, can of course require that a deed restriction be taken out on the property. The issue isn't whether one be taken out; it's in whose name it's authorized. For the CPC funds, which are different, I think it should be limited to just the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I don't think
That
there's an
makes
issue.
sense. Yeah.
All right, then. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes.
Mrs. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
CPC 6, Stony Run Main Street Preserve. Mr. Tropiano?
All right, so I thought we had, and trust me, and I need some help from you guys. I thought we had decided that we weren't going to buy any more property at all until we had the management plan in place.
We did.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what I just reading this now. This is the first time I've seen it, by the way. I was on vacation, so I didn't pay attention to it. I apologize. But I was pretty sure that we had talked about this before, about purchasing any land at this point, until we put the master plan in place to decide where and when we're going to spend the dollars and how we'd like to spend the dollars, and so on. Am I incorrect in that? I thought we had talked about it.
If you're asking me,
we
I
had.
can't answer. Peter, go ahead.
Yes, we had. Last spring, there was the Bay Point property, or the one near Bay Point, and we kept that off the warrant for exactly that reason. And we did state at that time that we wanted to see the master plan completed before we acquired any more land. So that is the case. You remember correctly.
Okay, that's what I thought. Are we changing our mind about that?
May I?
Yes, you may.
No, not
You
yet.
can let it go.
One thing, we have an open space plan, which I think is in effect to 2017,
That's correct.
and this falls under the guidelines of that, so that's
Yes, it does.
kind of one goes against the other, and some of the grants and stuff we do is based on that open space plan.
Yeah, you see, that's the issue, though.
I know,
One goes against the other, and that's the whole reason why to finish this and put it together.
yeah. But we're probably looking at a master plan that could be 2 years away from actual finality. Mrs. Slavin, your comments, please?
If I could jump in on that, Mr. Buckland seems to be making great headway. I would not be shocked to see this done early next year.
Agreed.
I think we'll agree to disagree on that one.
Well,
May I?
Mrs. Slavin, go ahead.
The open space plan, which is valid now, is a major part of the upcoming master plan. And the open space plan definitely indicates that we need to protect our water resources, including any brooks and waterways like that. So to me, the Wareham Land Trust submitted their grant request using the existing valid open space plan and its goal and objective to preserve our land around wetlands. We know that even on the existing master plan, it does say to preserve our wetlands and our land around wetlands, even though it is an old master plan. I don't see the new one changing, nor do I see the new one listing the specific pieces of land that might be considered. So I would like you to please take a look at this under the guise of the existing open space plan that's valid and been approved by the town and the state.
Just if I could speak to that.
May
Hold on a second, Peter. Mrs. Whiteside.
Yep.
ready?
please. I just would like to reinforce that this is an article that has been properly submitted by the Community Preservation Committee. During the hearings that they have and the conversations that they have, the dollars that are saved by, I'll call it retiring something from private ownership to town ownership, is substantial. For every tax dollar, we lose, I think it's 18 cents on the dollar for the services that we're providing to the town. If you have a piece of open space, it's retired from the tax rolls, so you take a one-time hit, if you will, but you also have preserved something that is, in fact, on that document, and it appears that it will continue to be on the next document, but it is a document that's valid through 2017.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on that, that's under the guise that it would be fully developed. And this is one of the issues we've brought forward, is the concern is purchasing property that may not be as developable as people think. And, you know, I think that they've done a good job. I remember in Onset, the most recent one, the appraisal actually came back much lower than what was being requested initially. But these are some of the things. I don't know that these funds should be the getaway, if you will, for developers that can't develop property. You know, maybe they'd want to gift it over, in a sense. You know, these, so we talk about that, what sort of development? Is it residential? What's in there? And that's, I have a real issue with those statements, because I don't necessarily think that there, you know, there's certain studies, and people like to tell me about my numbers and my figuring, so, you know. So I would hold back on some of these, or it's, I don't know, we've done a great job. What I like about here is they're talking about some of the recreation and potential trails, which I believe is a real benefit. And I know the watersheds are a benefit as well. I also see that this runs through some, before it gets here, some pretty nasty land of development. So, you know, it's a catch-22 in a way. So, but I would not say that purchasing this property is going to save us money in the long run. I don't think that's
Okay.
quite right.
Mrs. Tattelbaum, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, to me, you know, what we're presuming here is that somehow the master plan committee is going to adopt or take the open space plan in toto, and I don't know that that's going to happen. I'd really rather wait until the master plan is done. You know, considerations about the nature of the property aside, you know, nothing has changed from last spring when we said we wanted to hold off on land purchases. Nothing has changed. So I would vote no on this. And one further issue is, once again, we have another party that would go in here as a conservation restriction holder, which is the Conservation Commission. These things keep popping up in community preservation articles, and I don't know why. So if we do make a motion to put this on the warrant, I would like to see that stricken as well. And again, to have the restriction just held in the name of the Board of Selectmen.
I think that's a good point, Mr. T-Bomb.
Any other comments? None heard. I'd ask for a motion to include.
I'll make it. To include with the striking of the, or the Conservation Commission.
Need a second?
Wait a minute. Say that once more, please, I'm sorry.
I
I apologize.
Yes. I would strike, as Mr. Titlebaum said.
Oh, down,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Gotcha.
So the motion, the request would be to authorize the Board of Selectmen, which would be the holder of the permanent conservation restriction, and take the Conservation Commission out.
That's what I'm asking for in the motion.
That's in, I put it in my motion, sir.
That doesn't mean I will vote yes on the motion. It just means let's get that out of the motion,
I just
Understand.
did.
or out of the article, rather.
No.
Oh, you're in the middle of a vote.
I'll need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Scasiano. Motion was by Mrs. Whiteside. Any other discussion? Mr. Tropiano.
No.
Mrs. Scasiati.
Nope.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum.
No.
Okay, it does not go forward.
May I ask a question? If this is brought forward again and the conservation is no longer the holder of the CR with the selectmen, will the selectmen do the surveys and status reports of the property like conservation will have to?
I can't answer that at this time. Thank you. Next up is the dog park.
Move we include it in the warrant.
Have a second?
So,
Any discussion or any questions from any of the members? Mr. Titlebaum?
Yeah, the dog park, the committee, which has only had it's like a year and a half shelf life, I think, or maybe a year shelf life. These people worked hard. They actually convinced our town administrator to go along with it. We've cleaned up any potential liability issues using both state law and going at this through the insurance that they will have, the insurance the town will have. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised that I can say that I fully support this.
Thank you. Mrs. Whiteside?
Yeah, I have a question, and I'm not sure who I address it to. Based on what you said earlier, Mr. Titlebaum, you want the Board of Selectmen holding or authorizing the properties. And this is a grant to the Department of Natural Resources, so shouldn't it be to the town of Wareham?
Yeah, I'm a little confused by that language. Perhaps Mr. Sullivan could weigh in on that? I'm not really sure about that. I didn't pick up on that before.
Did you see what I'm asking, Mr. Sullivan?
I see the grant, but a grant is not a restriction, so I'm less concerned about it, but I'm just
No,
curious
but-
about it. Maybe he could tell us?
But how does a department apply for a grant without the knowledge and
They all do.
permission
We
of the-
apply for grants all the time.
But with your knowledge and permission? No?
Why wouldn't I have, I've given my knowledge, well, I
Garrett
have
does stuff on
knowledge and
his
I've
own.
given permission.
So everyone who has applied for a grant on behalf of the town of Wareham has gone through you?
They should have. Through town meeting, the authorization for the grants comes through.
Procurement.
Yeah,
And he's the procurement officer.
through,
I'm asking the question for a reason. I know the answer.
yeah, the school obviously is different.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm not against the article. I'm simply wondering if that's the correct terminology.
Mr. Bowen, do you have any issue with this? Thank you.
no, I want to have your copy, this full all of it.
looking, can you look at the town hall roof? That goes to municipal maintenance.
Yeah, that's
Please,
true.
see if
Yeah,
someone-
that's a good point.
We already,
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any problem with the language. You know, obviously, there are administrative procedures that'll have to be followed internally for it to be carried out, but in terms of the authorizing vote, I don't see an issue with it.
Thank you, sir.
So, and, you know, before any funds are expended through that, it comes through me as well. So that's the big difference on it. I know we've had some issues before where people have applied for grants and then it's been no holds barred, but
Yeah.
this is one of my department heads. and
okay,
department
yeah, no,
heads.
I just wanted to make sure that that clarification was made, sir.
I think some people are unaware that the town meeting authorizes expense.
Yes,
Town administrator expends the expense. He doesn't have to.
Right.
No.
There's no requirement on him, no shackles that says he has to expend the money.
always the case. I'll seek a motion to approve, include
already-
the warrant. Do we have that?
I did make the motion.
Yeah, it was my question, I'm sorry.
A second, okay. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiati?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes.
Mrs. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Thank you. 500.
Thank you. Before I leave, may I ask a procedural question?
Go ahead.
How many signatures?
Wait, no,
do-
we haven't done the town hall.
Yes, you did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. How many signatures are needed on a citizen's article?
Since our annual meetings are now basically in the spring and the fall, they're annual meetings, therefore it requires 10. If it's a special meeting, like a special town meeting, it require 100 if I'm not mistaken.
This is not a special town meeting, is it?
It is not.
So I just
Remember,
need-
we changed the,
So we need 10 signatures to bring a citizen's article forward.
anybody
Thank
can
you.
bring an article forward with 10
The
signatures.
exception of,
Thank you for,
isn't,
thank
we
you for your
close it
time.
next week, right?
We close it next week, yes.
You close on the 7th.
When is the last time to submit, though? It's gone by.
We close on
It's
the
already
7th.
closed.
Close on the 7th. On a citizen's petition, they can,
Done.
So it's over.
It's a non-issue.
Yeah,
It's a
if I could jump
non-issue.
in here for a second whenever he's done?
go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things we've run into, and it doesn't matter so much in the spring because nobody goes away typically in January or February, or if we do, it's not a whole bunch of people. The scramble to get this thing done for the fall is a direct result of that crazy 45-day posting requirement that's in our charter. You know, under state law, we only have to post the warrant, I think, what is it, announce a town meeting 14 days ahead of time and post
Correct.
the warrant like a week out or something almost flimsy in terms of providing public notice, but yet somebody sometime decided it was a bright idea to give everybody 45 days to read through this stuff. You know, if it takes you 45 days to read through it, you're probably not bright enough to vote on it. I'd like to go forward in the spring. We don't have time now, and I want to work with the FinCom on it, but I'd like to cut it back to 30 days so that we don't have this scramble at the same time every single year in the fall.
Okay, thank you. Just to make it clear, what Peter is talking about is, we have certain policies that are put in place about the timeframes, and some of it just doesn't work at all. Even in the charter, we've made some changes. We talk about the school committee has to basically get their budget out at a certain time frame. Town administrator has like not even 20 days after that to get his done. We switched it from December, November into January. Of course, the state of Massachusetts didn't get their budget done until July. Federal government hasn't done theirs yet. Probably won't see it till November. It's like basically throwing numbers up in the air and hoping something sticks. So hopefully we can work with the Finance Committee, come up with a set of numbers that gives them time to review the items, make sure the moderator is comfortable as well, so we can get this done a little bit easier. It just doesn't work, and it hasn't worked in quite a while. And it's because the system just doesn't allow it. Thank you. No. The citizen petition, we don't discuss it, we're not voting favorable or unfavorable action yet. It goes on, so we don't have to do anything with it.
Have to vote.
No. We have no control over that. The other one I got, did we discuss the, also, the harbor services?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, I don't have it checked off yet, sorry. Okay, I have one more piece I've got in. This is just a base motion. This is to see if the town will vote to make downward budget adjustments across the various budget line items or take any action relative thereto.
What was it? I'm sorry?
What?
Let me pass it down, everybody can read it, I'm sorry.
So this is something else.
Town will vote to make downward budget adjustments across the various budget line items? Or take any, what are you trying to accomplish?
In case there is an unbalanced budget voted, I'll need to make corrections to balance the budget. So you would have to, if somebody voted in excess of what we have for the FY18 budget,
Right.
you'd have to cut from, I don't know, the library or something like that. So
Right.
we're going to have to, there's an article out there that could potentially do that. So if we don't have a balanced budget at the end of the day, we will have to have a special town meeting to rebalance the budget. So this seeks
So I
to-
move we include it in the warrant.
Any,
Second.
second? Any questions by anybody? Peter?
I just have a
No,
question.
I know what it's about.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I'm sure it'll get cleaned up from that anyway, eventually.
You okay?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
no?
Yes,
Ms. Scasiotti, you seconded?
yes.
Okay. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti?
Yes.
Mrs. Whiteside? Mrs. Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all we have.
Yes, it is.
Eric, anything
Yeah,
I'm
I've been
missing?
going down the list. I think you got them all.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll make sure there's nothing else left.
Correct.
We did 40, you were all set with that one too, right?
Yeah, that went on last week.
I just want to make sure there's no change there. All right.
No.
Actually, yeah, I'm sorry, they do with the, it's to create the Special Education Stabilization Fund. Well, let me double check. Thanks, Bertie. I would have
Good
been in
catch.
trouble on that one.
Yeah, I do not have it, if you're
I
asking.
move we include the special education stabilization fund
One minute.
on the warrant.
Second.
Can someone give me an explanation of what it is?
Yes, that's what we've already talked about. It's create and establish a special education stabilization fund. The monies can only be appropriated out of there by town meeting, and that's for if in a fiscal year, I don't know if people realize it, you can have one or two students that can change your budget by about $120,000 mid-year. So we'll be seeking to establish the fund and transfer a total of $200,000 of free cash, certified free cash, into that fund.
So can you give me the title of it again, please, sir?
We talked about this last
Right.
town meeting.
So I've got two.
Special education,
One moment.
yep, thank you.
Special Education Revolving Fund. Hold on.
Why you're doing that, this will be initial seed money for that fund,
Correct.
and that's out of free cash?
That is out of free cash.
And when that money is gone, how do they refund it back? Same thing again? Wait for
It would
free
have to
cash?
be, yeah. It would have to
Thank you.
be. And also,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
this is, yeah, this is a new stabilization fund.
The answer, Bernie, is yes.
And then the transfer of McKinney-Vento funds to the transportation revolving account. And that's been steadily shrinking from well over 60,000 to I think it was about 34,000 last round. I don't think we've received the reimbursement yet from the previous, so.
I believe the state has cut back on that again, actually. Okay, we have a motion to include. You have a second, Mrs. Scasiotti? Mrs. Whiteside, any more questions?
No.
Mr. Titlebaum, any questions?
Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
I just got a point from that. Mrs. Whiteside?
I know, you were looking at me. I know that's what you were waiting for.
You know what? I'm going to say no, and the reason I'm going to say no is I don't like last-minute dealings.
This, I think it was a last minute written. This is something we established through the budget from.
Mr.
This is a
Titlebaum?
business.
this is no more last minute than anything else we've done tonight, so I'm gonna vote yes.
Okay. I'm not happy, but I will vote yes, because I just don't like the system, but we'll see how it all ends up at town meeting. Thank you. I believe that's it.
No, don't you have a...
Bernie?
Anything else?
Awesome.
No, it's
Anything else?
I just want to say, great job by Derek and Rich, sort of carrying the ball across the finish line over the last few days. Like I say, this has been kind of disjointed over the last month. I've been very concerned about it. And, you know, I've been away for 2 weeks. Derek's been away. You know, we've all had these vacations, and yet we somehow managed to get through it all and come up with something that at least looks like a town meeting warrant that wasn't written by apes. And I'm pretty glad about that.
Thank you for that nice description.
You just called us geeks?
I thought he said apes.
Apes?
I shaved my back yesterday, that's beside the
Oh.
point.
The Y thanks you.
Yes, the why thanks me. That's there on the
It's
table.
a compliment.
All righty. Any other questions from anybody here? Nope. Town administrators report?
No, sir.
That's it?
In going through them, we have through the Labor Days, we all know that this year, if you were a seasonal business and such, it was a tough summer, a lot of rain on the weekends. The parking program is running about 19,500 behind the previous year. So last year at this point, we had received in revenue about just under 172,000. This year we're at about 152 plus change. So you're a little over 10% off on it. But given that last year was so hot and this year with the rain, it's good. So our ranges have been about looks like about every year we can count probably about 160,000, because I would say this was, weather-wise, especially starting off even in June and such, was just lousy. So I thought at one point I was really worried it was going to trend even worse. But so it's doing well. And one of the things I really like seeing is the concept that we had of basically on-demand parking. You pay a premium to be closer to the beach. People this year really started using Heinz Fields, which I thought was excellent. So next year, we're probably gonna have to go in there, give it some lines, and really look about some of the solar lighting and such. But it's great that that's actually finally being utilized for what it should be.
All set?
Bless you.
No, sir.
Thank you.
I have a liaison report.
Mr. Tropiano, any reports?
I was on vacation.
I know, so I have to ask. Mrs. Scasiotti?
Nope.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes, I attended a MSBA meeting at 5:30 this afternoon. Unfortunately, there was not a quorum, but we were shown the information about 4 architectural firms that may be recommended to the MSBA, whatever it is. And the whole process is on a very, very, very tight timeline. The end of October and middle of January, we will have chosen a whole bunch of things and be on a roll. But my mind is sort of the 2 boys were at the same meeting I was, so they could probably do it better. But we are moving forward on the Minot Forest School rebuild, renovation, restoration, whatever.
Thank you.
All of the above.
I'll be very quick. The Mass Municipal Association Board of Directors meeting, I'll be attending next week on Tuesday. Just a quick basic information for the public. The House and Senate will be reconvening in August, at the end of August here, actually almost now, and it's a short session. And it breaks in November, then again in January. What's going up before them is the housing and zoning legislation, which we have to look at very carefully, because it could change drastically how we do our zoning legislation. Healthcare costs, containment, mass health. Again, it affects all of us financially at the end of the day. Taxation of short-term and seasonal rentals. That affects a community like Wareham, which has Airbub, et cetera, different properties that right now do not pay any kind of taxes at all, versus a hotel, bread and breakfast that does pay taxes on that stuff. And basically, of course, the health of the state finances, there's still questions what's happening there, because the budget was based on 3.9%, and of course, the numbers aren't there right now. Also going to be discussed at the governmental advisory meeting for the governor. We'll be discussing state budget revenues, economic outlook, community compact cabinet, state activities addressing climate change, and a briefing for the Mass Emergency Management Agency, which is known as MEMA, with state efforts and plans for a major storm, which might be very appropriate right now on Tuesday as well. I'll give everybody a full report once I come back on Tuesday. I have no bills to pay. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Scasiotti?
Good night, Wareham.
Slavin, yes. Mr. Titlebaum?
Of course.
Have a drink for me.